right, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday, one more day. I am going to get started here in the effort of time because I always like to get everyone out for the lunch and learns on time so you can get back to your day. I'm Christine Zellers, and I'm the Family and Community Health Sciences Educator for Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Cape May County. And joining me today is Fong Pommier, who is the consultant with FCHS in Cape May County. Not advancing already. All right. Rutgers Cooperative Extension is part of the Rutgers, New Jersey Agricultural Experiment Station. Rutgers is a land-grant university, meaning it has cooperative extension services throughout New Jersey to support the community with educational information that is scientifically research-based. Rutgers Cooperative Extension is a partnership between the Board of County Commissioners, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, and the USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And we have faculty or staff in 21 of the 21 New Jersey counties. We are composed of 3 departments: agriculture and natural resources, 4-H and youth development, and family and community health sciences, FCHS, which is my department. FCHS provides outreach in New Jersey and beyond on topics related to nutrition, chronic disease prevention, food safety, and overall wellness. We hope that you'll visit our websites after the presentation if you haven't already, or follow us on social media. And I'm going to share with you the social media handles and all the information on how to contact us at the end of the presentation. And always like to hear from everybody, so please don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything or have any questions. If you have any questions during the presentation, you're welcome to put them into the chat. Fong is going to be monitoring that, and we'll hold questions about the presentation until the end so that I can answer those. In accordance with the federal law and U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, civil rights regulations and policies, this institution is prohibited from discriminating on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, age, and disability. All right, so let's get started today. I'm excited to do this presentation. I learned some things about, cognitive decline while reviewing the information and tidying up this presentation. So I hope that you all find it as interesting as I did. During today's discussion on the MIND diet, eating for brain health, there's going to be 3 objectives. First, we're going to begin with an introduction and the research that supports the MIND diet and its link to delaying or lessening Alzheimer's and dementia. And next, we will we'll review what exactly the MIND diet is, and then we're going to talk about additional components of the diet and its outcomes. If any time, like I said, you have any questions, you feel free to put them in the chat. And I'd like to really take a minute to thank Dr. Kathleen Morgan, who wrote a wonderful presentation about the MIND diet and allowed me to adapt it for today's presentation needs. So Kathleen did a lot of the research for this and had a great presentation that was much longer than what today's is going to be. I was just telling Fong that I cut it back a little bit because we are limited on time. We only have a half an hour. I will send you as a follow-up another article or 2 about the MIND diet. So if you want to read a little bit more about it, I'm going to give an outline of it today, give you the components of it so you have an idea of the importance of it, as well as how you might implement it into your lifestyle if you're interested. So in 2015, just to give you a little bit of background and about the research on this, in 2015, Dr. Martha Claire Morris, who's from the Rush Institute for Healthy Aging at Rush University in Chicago, published her initial findings on the MIND diet. So that's, when I say MIND, I'm saying M-I-N-D, capital, all capital, it's an acronym. And the MIND diet and what she published was MIND diet and Alzheimer's and dementia. And this study showed that the diet protected cardiovascular health and slowed cognitive decline in older adults. So since 2017, Morris has led a large clinical trial of the effectiveness of the MIND diet in preventing cognitive decline. And in 2017, Dr. Morris received a $14.5 million grant from the National Institute of Health, the NIH, to continue this research. research. The results of the study were expected sometime this year in 2021, but very sadly, Dr. Morris passed away in February of 2020 at the age of 62 from cancer. Her research, though, is being continued by members of her team, which is very promising. Morris's nutrition-related research went well beyond diets and examined the impact of individual nutrients. So one of her studies published in 2018 suggested that the presence of folate, phyloquin, or vitamin K, and lutein found in relatively large amounts in green leafy vegetables may account for why consuming a daily serving of these vegetables can slow cognitive decline. One of the most recent studies from Morris's group, published in January 2020, provided the first evidence that dietary flavonols, which are found in many fruits and vegetables, are associated with a reduced risk for dementia. Today, we're going to look briefly at those nutrients, like I said, but we're going to mostly focus on the components of the MIND diet itself and why it could be beneficial in preventing cognitive decline. I really think this will give you a better idea of how to eat from components of the MIND diet. So researchers have begun investigating if what we eat or a specific diet plan can help delay dementia or prevent Alzheimer's disease. Many of these studies suggest that what we eat does in fact affect the aging brain's ability to think and remember. These findings have led to research on general eating patterns and how those eating patterns might make a difference. Currently, researchers are more rigorously attempting, hold on one second, I gotta mute somebody. Phone, can you mute that person? Can you see there's somebody off on mute? And I can't get to them. Thanks. Okay, back to the stumbling on the word rigorously. So they're starting to really start testing these a lot more and see if these diets can prevent or, really can prove that this is a preventative thing to decline cognitive decline. The Mediterranean diet and the related MIND diet, which includes elements designed to lower blood pressure and other healthy eating patterns, have been associated with cognitive benefits in this study. Currently, other interventions like physical activity, blood pressure control, and cognitive training have been shown to produce better cognitive improvements, but adding a brain health diet could be beneficial as well. So a lot of times, you'll hear about doing puzzles to help the mind and train the mind and more physical activity. They're saying that combined with this MIND diet, it holds a lot more viability for this being a good outcome for delaying cognitive decline. The MIND diet was created as a result of the research that was mentioned previously by Dr. Morrissey, and it sought to specifically examine the relationship between certain foods and their effect on brain health, and the intention of, one, slowing the decline of brain health as we age, and then two, reducing the risk of development of Alzheimer's disease. So now we know that the MIND diet's pretty good at preventing, it's supported by research. So what exactly is the MIND diet? The MIND diet stands for Mediterranean Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay. So that's the MIND. The MIND diet takes elements from the Heart Healthy Mediterranean diet and the blood pressure lowering DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. We've got a lot of acronyms today. And the Mediterranean diet, as you might guess, is based from traditional eating habits from the region around the Mediterranean Sea. So for instance, the Mediterranean diet supports, and you've heard me talk about it before, probably eating olive oil, fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and nuts and beans. And then the DASH diet, which stands for, like I said, Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, aims to control hypertension and keep blood pressure under control. All three of these diets, the MIND, the Mediterranean, and the DASH, are essentially plant-based. So you can have some animal protein with them. However, they're more plant-based than not, and they're low in high-fat foods. The MIND diet places specific, I'm really having a hard time with specific today. The MIND diet places specific focuses on foods and nutrients linked to optimal brain health, which include berries and green leafy vegetables. So we're going to take a minute here and check these out. So don't laugh. I know I didn't have the little icon-y things. I didn't have all of them when I set up the presentation. So the wine is in a beaker, but that's okay, right? It's wine. So there's 10 different foods that the MIND diet focuses on, which include leafy greens, other vegetables, berries, whole grains, beans, fish, poultry, nuts, wine, and olive oil. I'd like to take a few minutes to explain why a few of these foods are really important as parts of the MIND diet to decrease the risk of degenerative brain disease. I'm not going to cover all of them since we're limited on time today, but there's some really big highlights. Like, if you look at the MyPlate scenario and the MyPlate diet, it's very similar to what they're suggesting here and the recommendations that they're making. But I want to pull out some of the things that really, are more focused with the MIND diet. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is green leafy vegetables. So researchers that found that the green leafy vegetables, those like kale and collard greens, spinach, or darker green lettuce, were specifically shown to lower the risk of dementia and cognitive declines. Greens are packed with nutrients that are linked to better brain health, like folate, vitamin E, carotenes, and flavonoids. And when I talk about green leafy vegetables, I know people have heard this before, but iceberg lettuce it's not really, like, think of the difference between a piece of iceberg lettuce versus a piece of spinach. And, that green color, the phytochemicals that are in the spinach that give it its beautiful green brilliance, they're going to pack a better punch, much more so than the lettuce, the iceberg lettuce that's mostly water. So again, if you're thinking of green leafy vegetables, make sure they're the things like I mentioned, like the kale and the collard greens, or, the darker lettuces like the romaine, the curly leaf, and the spinach, okay? Really maximize your veggie intake. Aim to eat at least 6 servings a week of greens, then round it out with at least 1 serving of another vegetable a day. So before we move on from green leafy vegetables, I know I haven't asked you to talk in the chat a lot lately, and I'm missing hearing from you. So I'd love it if you could put in the chat right now what you think, what your favorite green leafy vegetable is and how you like to eat it. So for instance, I'm on this big spinach kick right now. So I love sauteed spinach, and I'm putting sauteed spinach. I'm setting my salmon on sauteed spinach before I eat it. I'm using it instead of spaghetti for meatballs. So I'm really into the green of the spinach. And so if you have any you'd like to share, just to give ideas to the group, that would be great. And you can put it in the chat, and I'll circle back to that in a minute while you're adding it into the chat. So the other vegetables that are important are included in those other vegetables. So that's all the other vegetables. So they really want you to include other vegetables as well as green leafy vegetables. So make sure that when you're doing that other vegetable, you want to eat a variety, so many different kinds of vegetables, and you want to eat many different kinds of colors. So really think about a rainbow, and, eggplant one day, tomatoes another day. Not that you can't have them on the same day, but I'm just giving an example. So look at those different colors and try to mix them up, and try to mix up the types you're having. So don't eat just spinach all the time, but try to get that variety. So you're getting all those phytochemicals and great vitamins and minerals. And like I mentioned, the phytochemicals are going to be what give them their colors, but also the nutrients. So that's why that they're really important. Let's see what we have in the chat today. Somebody said sauteed spinach. Somebody loves peas, Swiss chard, and spinach. Wow. Yep. And arugula. I know, I love arugula too. That's another one I really love to add warm things to. And it's fun. I put meatballs on them and everything. And my one son was like, oh, that's gross. And then he had it somewhere. He's like, oh, it's actually really good. So yeah, it has arugula has a little tart taste to it. But if you put meatballs on it, or, put it with a nice dressing, it's really, really good. So thank you everyone for sharing that. I appreciate it. So when scientists reviewed the research on diet and brain health, one type of fruit soared a lot above the rest, which was berries. And I did a talk recently on functional foods about berries and the benefits of berries. But in a 20-year study of over 16,000 older adults, I mean, that's a significant amount of time and a good amount of people. Those who ate the most blueberries and strawberries had the slowest rate of cognitive decline. So, right now we're just coming towards the end of blueberry season. They have been awesome again this year in New Jersey. If you're joining us from New Jersey, blueberries are great, for a snack or to top your yogurt or, so many ways that just a handful of them, take them to work as your snack. There's so many ways to add them into things, cereals, and get the benefits of those. And same with strawberries. So those are two things that you can add to your daily repertoire to try to get 2 servings per week. I have all the servings up there and get the benefits of those. The researcher really credit this high level of flavonoids in berries with the benefit they provide. And that's according to a study that was done in the Journal of Neurology in 2020, which was also done by Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, Illinois. Like berries, wine has flavonoids as well and is one of the 10 foods that you can see you consume on this diet. But it's really important to remember that you want to consume alcohol in moderation. And as you can see here, it says 1 glass a day. So while it's, nice to be able to have that, you want to make sure that you're getting, keeping it to a limit and keeping it with that glass a day recommendation. Nuts may be high in calories, but they're another one on the list, and they're packed with fat-soluble vitamin E, known for its brain protective qualities. It's really great to take a handful of nuts at least 5 times a week instead of processed snack like potato chips or pastry. So when you're thinking about trying to introduce the Mind diet, if you're interested in doing that, maybe bring nuts a day to work, maybe bring blueberries a day to work, and then you're like really simply adding them in and kind of getting rid of maybe the cookies or the chips or something like that for your snack. Check for the list of ingredients on nuts and try to opt for those dry roasted or raw and unsalted without sodium and without sweeteners or oils. That's going to really help to keep them on the more healthy side with the nuts. Beans and lentils and other beans, which pack a whole lot of protein and fiber, make a worthy substitute for animal protein. And they're also on the list here. They keep you full and they're full of rich vitamin B, which is important for brain health. Fish is high in many important nutrients, including high quality protein, iodine, and various vitamins and minerals. The fatty varieties like salmon also pack omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D. Many observational studies show that people who eat more fish have slower rates of mental decline. So again, that's not to say that you shouldn't hit on all of these. You want to get all 10 in and mix them in, and you can see whole grains are on there. You want to try to get 3 servings of a whole grain a day. And you can also see that olive oil and poultry are on here, but I feel like they're ones that are hit quite often in presentations. And, I felt that I wanted to really highlight the brain benefits of the other ones that we touched on here today. But again, follow those serving sizes and try to get them and add them in. Okay. I'm just checking the chat for you. All right, so there's some additional components to the Mind diet that you want to be aware of as well. Besides the 10 very important components that we just mentioned of eating and a healthy eating pattern for the Mind diet, you really want to make sure to exercise. You should get 150 minutes of exercise each week with 2 additional days that include weight-bearing exercise. So move for at least 30 minutes a day, even if you start slow and do maybe 10 minutes 3 times a day, that's fine. But after you do that exercise, try to just take a minute and say, how do you feel? Think about not your body. Don't think about, oh, my elbow hurts, my knee hurts. Think about what that exercise did for you, mind benefit. Are you feeling calmer? Are you feeling more alert? May even help you sleep better at the end of the day. So think about the things that you're gaining from exercise that might be really beneficial to you as far as having a better cognitive outcome long-term. So, it has same thing as the diet. It has been shown to really help to prevent cognitive decline. As I mentioned, when you're watching your diet, there are some things that you want to attempt to prevent cognitive disease. One of them is limiting red meat to 4 or a few times per week. You didn't see red meat on that list because you're going to try to limit that one on this MIND diet. You also want to eliminate, or not eliminate, but limit saturated fats like butter and margarine. And you want to keep them to 7 tablespoons per week or less with the butter and margarine. So, you know, as you're cooking, if you can cook with olive oil instead as a substitute, olive oil is on the MIND diet list to use more of and to use. So that could replace where you're using the butter or margarine. And again, try to make sure that you're using mostly olive oil. As far as the sweets and pastries go, they're not saying you got to give them up. I think that's great because I think it's good that they're being realistic and not telling you have to take something out. But they are recommending that you try to eat less than 5 times a week. You try to eat pastries. So again, if you're replacing the pastries or the sweets with the nice sweet blueberry, then you're getting the benefit of the blueberry for the MIND diet, and you're, you know, limiting the sweets that could be detrimental. Also on that limit of higher fat that I didn't mention was the fried food and the cheese. If you could consume a lower fat cheese, that would be better for you. And they want you to limit the fried food to less than once per week in the fast food. So keep those in mind as you're eating the MIND diet. So interesting outcomes from the study that they found that, you know, Dr. Morrissey's study found. They found that some, but not all, observational studies have shown that the MIND diet is associated with lower risk of dementia. So again, you know, there's always going to be, it's good to have that, right? It balances us out. So there are some that are saying, no, it's not working in the way we thought it would, but there is a lot of evidence that it's working as it should. So it's shown that it helped to risk the lower of Alzheimer's disease by as much as 53% in participants who adhered to the diet rigorously. So those people who did nothing but the MIND diet did decrease their chances of lowering the risk of Alzheimer's by 53%. So that's pretty significant. For those who followed the diet moderately, 35% lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. So, you know, I'm not sure exactly what that 35% did, but they weren't like really strict with it, but they did follow it somewhat moderately. One of the more exciting things about this is that people who adhered even moderately to the MIND diet had a reduction of Alzheimer's, Morris says. So that's really, yeah, it is pretty cool that they're finding links between that. The researchers also found that adhering to the diet may slow cognitive decline among aging adults, even when that person is not at risk for developing Alzheimer's disease. So if they don't have any risk factors, it's still showing improved cognitive outcomes. So you want to try to incorporate the suggested foods on a regular basis. And this way it'll become a good habit long-term. So even if you're not, you know, looking at cognitive decline as being an issue for you right now, or maybe there's not a history in the family, it's a good healthy eating pattern to undertake to prevent that if you're interested, or just in general. The components of the MIND diet are very much like the My Plate eating pattern, and that the MIND diet also includes, you know, the fruits, the vegetables, the whole grains, lean meats, and healthy fats with physical activity every day. So, you know, again, it's incorporating Mediterranean and DASH diet in there, and really looking at those components that help to keep our chronic disease at bay. And like I said, start eating that way now, and it's going to help you to prevent chronic disease overall eventually. So. All right, so at this point, I just wanted to take a minute and ask everyone to take out your phones, hold up or open up your camera if you have a newer phone, and hold it up to the little QRL barcode here. And if you do that, it'll open in your internet. It'll take you outside of the phone there into your internet and allow you to do a questionnaire for me. That is an evaluation, and that really helps me out. And if you're not able to do that with your telephone because it's an older model, or you don't have internet access right now with that, both things being open, I will put this link in the email that I send you, or you could go to that link now. I'll put that in the chat in a second. You can go there, just click on it and do the evaluation for me there, and it would be very, very helpful. As I mentioned before, these are the ways to contact me. We are back in the office here at the Cooperative Extension Building in Cape May County. We've been in the office for a while, but we're open again to the public. So if you have any needs, we're here and we're glad to help, and we encourage you to reach out if you have any questions. At this point, so I don't forget, because last time I forgot, before I finish the presentation, I'd just like to launch the poll. So I have some poll questions for you just to ask the things that you picked up and things you learned and things you might want to know for the future. So what about mayo, somebody asked. So before I finish the presentation, I'll answer the question about mayo. So mayonnaise is usually pretty high in fat. And in this diet, sometimes they're made with olive oil, so you can get them that way. And it's funny that you bring that up, because in the office yesterday, somebody was talking about making a tomato sandwich. And I know one thing, you got to have your mayonnaise on a tomato sandwich. So I think in moderation, sure. It depends on how much you're eating it. But I would say that it can be very high in fat. So it's one of the things you want to watch out if you're trying to, watch what you're eating, chronic disease prevention. But there are, like I said, there's other models. I know that there's mayonnaise made with olive oil, and I think maybe even I saw avocado. So they might be options for you too. But I think, I always say everything in moderation. People ask me this all the time. I'll be at a party and they'll come up to me and they'll say, oh my gosh, you're eating cake. Oh my gosh, yes, I'm eating cake. So that's one of the things I liked about the Mind Diet, is they're not telling people that they can't have pastries, but do it in moderation. Look at what you're doing. You don't want your whole diet to be mayonnaise based. You don't want to put mayonnaise on everything. So you want to make sure that you're getting a variety and you're filling your plate and your diet with fruits, healthy fruits and vegetables of all different colors and a variety, and like lean meats and whole grains. So keep those all in mind. All right, let's see. I just wanted to summarize everything we said today. I want to give a few minutes for questions. We're just about at the end of the program already. But in closing, having a healthy eating pattern really helps to prevent chronic disease. And that's when it's accompanied by physical activity. So that's really important. A well-balanced diet that includes whole grains, like I just mentioned, lean meats and dairies, with plenty of fruits and vegetables, will provide your body with many benefits from all the nutrients. The keys to the Mind Diet can work on the same premise. It's a combination of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet, which have been shown to reduce the risk of chronic disease, hypertension, and heart disease while preventing some cancers. The 10 foods included in the Mind Diet support chronic disease prevention, as well as offering nutrient-dense foods that support your brain health. Finally, the research is still coming in on the Mind Diet, but there's very strong evidence that it supports the incidence of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. The Mind Diet's a good food as medicine example, because it takes the components of a healthy eating plan and provides a tasty format for eating and preventing disease at the same time. And I've been very involved in, I'm doing a lot of things right now that do focus on food as medicine. And if you're not familiar with that term, just to give an overview of that, it means, doctors sometimes now are giving prescriptions out for people to eat more fruits and vegetables. So that's called a fruit and vegetable prescription program. So they would tell you to eat more fruits and vegetables to help prevent chronic disease, or maybe lower the risk of some of the chronic disease that you might be at risk for. So that food as medicine is very interesting to me. A lot of people are starting to practice it, and there's been a lot of research done on it recently. I'm involved in some research on it right now. Just to see, how can changing our diet really help and prevent us from having to be using prescription medication and changes. So that's something that everybody has to, kind of have an individual thing with their doctor on. But it isn't, maintaining a healthy diet can be very, very productive in helping you to prevent chronic disease. These are the references to the program that I just did. And I just wanted to take a minute again to send special thanks to Kathleen Morgan. Dr. Kathleen Morgan was our department head for a while and is recently retired, and was a joy to work with. And she developed this wonderful presentation that I just shared with some moderation, as I said, with some updates for our day-to-day.